American here for our last edition before our big birthday, America 250.
Tomorrow.
So excited. Well, we're very fortunate to have William Raline. He is currently chief of police over in our town of Monteagle. That's where we're at right now. But he is running for Moore County Sheriff.
Yes, ma'am. I
Wow.
know, it's amazing.
Wow. All right. So, for those who don't know him, let's talk a little bit about who William Brayline is
Okay.
and why in the world did you decide to run for sheriff?
Well, William Raline is 52-year-old and getting older. I'm a Christian, a father, and a grandfather. Started my law enforcement career technically at the end of 2009, the beginning of 2010 as a reserve officer because I was like, yeah, you can't make any money being in law enforcement, right? So you got to make money. So became a reserve and the bug bit me. I mean, it really did. I mean, it bit me that long ago, and realized that there was a little bit more than money, and it's called being a servant. So, went to work at the Coffee County Sheriff's Department as a jailer. So, learned a lot about working a jail setting because as a civilian, I just assumed that everyone that went to jail was horrible. We all assume that, but the reality is 98% of the people that go to jail make simple mistakes. There's 1% of the people that go there, they're like, eh. And there's another, the last 1%, they're there because they need to be there, right? And that's what really generated me to want to get on the road, start helping people, and then life happened, you know. So I had many opportunities. I was very fortunate to learn from some great sheriffs, and I was fortunate to join the Monteagle Police Department 5 years ago.
Has it been 5 years?
September will be 5 years. And you know, I was told when I came up here 5 years ago, by the way, Monteagle has some of the best citizens you'll ever meet on this planet.
Amen.
Ever. Very open. However, I was told, you're not going to last. A valley boy will never last on a mountain. And I said, okay, I didn't realize what that meant. And I'm like, all right. 5 years later, almost, I'm told, hey, you've done a great job. So I guess I must be doing something correct.
You got to be tough.
Yeah, you do have to be
It's got
tough.
to be
Yeah.
tough. All right. So, speaking of your experience as chief of police and going up at community policing, what are some of the highlights from that period of time that will prepare you for being sheriff in Moore County?
Oh, wow. I would say my number one highlight um, as chief here in Monteagle was the opportunity to introduce the K9 program. We had the great privilege to employ a great man, Brant Voss, who has passed away, and his partner, Milo. You know, I took some, there was a lot of restraint with that because obviously people think that that costs a lot of money, and it can be costly. However, the amount of narcotics that we were able to get off our streets here in Monteagle was amazing. And you wouldn't think that Monteagle stays that busy, but we see probably on an average daily of 1,000 or more vehicles come on this mountain because it is a stopping point, right? So we were able to implement that program, take a large amount of narcotics off our streets in a short period of time, and actually got to the point where people were actually writing some pretty nasty things about us on, you know, walls and things, which let us believe that it's working, right? And then, so we did that. We slowed it down. You're never going to get rid of narcotics. You're never going to get rid of drugs. But as Brant would say, Chief, we just got to keep it between the mayonnaise and mustard. And I said, Brant, you're exactly right. And so that's what we're doing. We're continuously making the stops that we need to make lawfully, and letting the individuals know that if you're going to do drugs, you're going to get caught in Monteagle. Take it somewhere else. I prefer you to stop, but don't do it in Monteagle. So we did that, which was great. The other thing was, as a chief of police, you've really got to change your mindset on how you run a department. You realize that everyone doesn't learn like everyone else. Everyone's got their own personalities, but you do have to have a standard. You have to hold people to the standard, and the standard is pretty high for us. It has to be. It's a little bit higher than your next door neighbor, and it's not hard. It's not always easy to have to bring one of your guys in and say, hey, listen, you're not meeting the standard. We've got to get better, or I've got to cut you because you're not what Monteagle needs. Now, I've had to do that a few times. I'm still friends with those individuals, but sometimes you make those hard decisions, and a true leader knows when to make those decisions. And I don't know, and I think just getting to know your citizens and getting to know the community really does help with this job. Now, grant you, we got 1,600 ish residents. I don't know all 1,600 residents. I know a lot of residents, and we have people who come in and out of our doors daily just to come in and see what the police department looks like, because they all tell me, hey, this used to be the bank. Well, I've not been in here in years. So, but at the end of the day, it's, as a leader, as a chief, my job is I can't make everyone happy. It's impossible, because if I made everyone happy, that means I'm lying to myself and to everyone else. So you make the majority of the people happy. The minority, they're going to be unhappy, and I'm okay with that. So if 95% of Monteagle likes what we're doing and understands what we're doing, and they feel safe because the people that we have working while they're sleeping, then I'm okay with that. And those are the things that I would bring to Moore County. Leadership one, it's so easy to tell my guys, hey, I need you to go patrol, I need you to do this, 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 and this. But if you don't inspect what you expect, how do you know it's getting done? So you're always having to check, always have to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I have gotten up at 1 o'clock in the morning and driven up here and be like, hey, what's everybody doing? And they're like, what's Chief doing here? And I'm like, and I'll go home, but you have to do that. But this job is not hard. It is super simple. People make this job out to be a little bit harder than what it really is, but it's actually, how do you manage people? You just got to manage your people, you got to manage your staff, and you always have to be educating yourself and the staff, because continuing education is very important in law enforcement, because when you go to the academy, you get basic training. That's why it's called Basic Academy. They teach you just enough to let you know, oh my God, I can get in trouble. Right? When you're a rookie, you don't know. But it's up to management, and it's up to my guys to continuously learn. Like, new laws change every year. Well, we just had the new law that changed. It came in effect July 1, where most people are under the impression that you can shoot and kill someone if they're stealing your lawnmower. Right?
New law, I'm pretty excited about it, but there are caveats.
There are. So just make sure that you read up and you make yourself knowledgeable about what it really says, because at the end of the day, you still are going to have to answer to a jury of 12. Mm-hmm. So just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. Right?
True story. Well, real quick, I remember last mayor's election, one of the biggest issues was speeding.
Yes.
Remember that? And Mayor Maloof, when he got in, was really, I am going to take care of speeding. Mm-hmm. And so it was a shock to a lot of folks when they first did that.
Yeah, so that was one of the things he and I discussed, is how do we slow it down? Well, there's only one way. You got to be out. You've got to be running radar, and you've got to pull over vehicles that lawfully you can pull over. Fortunately for us, that was a lot. I want to say that from January, it was 90 days, we pulled over almost 500 vehicles. That was a real shock to people. They were like, what is this guy doing? This is the guy that you guys voted in. We didn't vote for him, right? So I took some heat, and there was some aldermen that understood. They did, and they were like, hey, listen, we get it, but I'm like, I understand, just give me a little bit. We slowed it down. We wrote don't know the exact number, but I'm wanting to say 300 citations, right?
Yeah, I remember the first days.
In that 90 days, we write on an average now maybe 10.
Yeah.
We pull people over still, but speeding is not an issue any longer. We were having people doing donuts in parking
Yeah.
lots, and in broad daylight,
Yeah.
and luckily, we don't have that any longer. And it wasn't because we were trying to be mean, but our citizens, they don't want to see that. If you want to go do donuts, go do it in a field somewhere that belongs to you or a family member. But we got to keep it safe. We have a lot of walking trails here. We've got the Mountain Goat Trail, which probably thousands of people use yearly. I don't even know the number there. And the way that our main street is designed, it would be so easy for someone to recklessly drive through there, lose control, and come across either road. And I've got the school here, and kids are always playing. So that's always a concern. So we're gonna continuously monitor the speeding, and we're gonna continuously um, um, write the citations when we need to. But now we do have some side roads that we'll go sit for a while, and people know they're like, oh, Monty was sitting there, so they'll slow down, and then when we leave, they'll pick back up, right? I'm okay with that. Some of my guys used to get real mad, like, oh, I can't get them because they're slowing down. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Just as long as they see you sitting there and people think you're running radar, that means they're going to slow up. You've done your job. We don't write tickets for profit. We write tickets to change behavior, right? So I would prefer never to have to write a citation,
Right.
because one, it takes too long. We still do it paper. We don't have the fancy computers yet, so
Wow.
it still takes on an average about 12 to 15 minutes to write a citation on the side of the road, which means the person you just pulled over, they're getting more agitated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just more dangerous for everyone when you're sitting on the side of the road. So, but we did slow it down. Thank you, citizens of Montego, for slowing down and thinking about one another, because there for a long time it was,
Oh, it was a free for all.
yeah,
Yeah, I want to live in Mayberry, and that'll lead me to the next question. We want to live in Mayberry.
we do 100%.
I want Barney and Andy, and I want, just all of us are being neighbors. Moore County is very similar to Grundy in some ways. It's very rural, it's very neighborly. Where do you see the opportunities in the sheriff?
So I've been out campaigning probably since November of last year, but really, really hardcore at since May, and I've knocked on well over 400 doors and listened to citizens. The very first thing, and I think the easiest thing to capitalize on is going to be number one. It's going to be leadership, right? I think it's very easy to forget your role. And I think it's very easy to come in and do your day to day things and not worry about what night shift did or what day shift's doing or what this sergeant or what this lieutenant or whomever is doing, right? So there has to be accountability. Not to say that there's none there. I truly believe there should be more. And accountability is not a bad word. That means, hey, we're just checking on to make things are being done correctly and efficiently. The other thing would be is I would have to look at the infrastructure to see, hey, what positions do we have? How many positions do we have? Do we have too many of this and not enough of this? It might be easier to rearrange the department to put more people back on the road, because we know just like Montego, Moore County, they can't afford to have 5 people on the road at any given time,
Yeah.
right? We just don't have that kind of income coming into our town. However, anything less than 3 is very difficult. Moore County is 130 square miles, I do believe. So, just to put it in perspective, Grundy is a little over 300 square miles, right? So the call volume is much higher in Grundy than it is in Moore County. So you can run less deputies and be efficient, but you don't want to run so little deputies that they can't get to a call, especially if you arrest someone. and let's say your jail is full,
Mm.
now you got to take them somewhere else,
Mm.
right? So it may take one deputy, depending on where they're at, 30 to 40 minutes to get from one side of the county to the other. So at the end of the day, you have to, as a citizen, you've got to, one, protect yourself until you can get there. And not everyone has guns at home, and not everyone knows how to protect themselves. So that's going to be, a big thing to look at is how do we put more deputies on the road without costing taxpayers more money,
Mm-hmm.
and then training. It all comes down to training. Is if I get elected, one of the things that I've stated multiple times is the first 2 weeks I will sit down with every associate, every employee at the sheriff's department. I'm going to find out, who are you, why are you with the sheriff's department, how long you've been certified, and what are your goals. And then once they answer those, I'm going to ask them, if you could choose two things, if there was anything to change, if you could choose two things, what are they? Well, hopefully by the end of this, I think they only have like 17, maybe 19 employees total. By the end of that, I should have a pretty good list of things that the associates, the deputies, and everyone will like to see changed. And you start with the top five, and you move there. What's that's going to do? It's going to build morale. They're gonna say, hey, this guy actually really does want to make the changes. And two, it starts implementing the leadership portion of it
Mm-hmm.
that they may or may not have, because it's very difficult for someone to take direct leadership from someone if they don't always get it. So that's a you work yourself into that.
Man, that's fascinating. You, Monteagle's has several big personalities.
We do.
I'm sure Moore County
Hmm.
does as well. What is the best way to handle big personalities in a community?
Well, if we're talking about citizens,
Mm-hmm.
um, first and foremost, you treat everyone with respect, right? It's one of those things I was always taught. You give respect, you get respect. With us, we're in a situation in law enforcement that even if we don't want to give the respect, you still do it, right? You're still going to be very personable, and you've got to be professional. But it's at the end of the day, I truly believe whether you're the most vocal individual or you're the quietest individual, they just want to be heard. That's it. They just want to be heard. They may have something to say, and for them, it's super important. So you got to listen, right? You got to listen. Now, you may not agree with what they have to say, and you don't have to agree with what they have to say, but you do listen. And then every situation's a little bit different. We're all born to be different. I mean, could you imagine a world with 50,000 of me? That would be boring. It'd be horrible, right? So we all have to have different personalities. But and now when it comes to associates, the same thing. Employees. Not everyone at my department is exactly the same, and I don't want that dynamic. I would hate to have 8 robots or 7 robots because there's 8 of us, right? Because it would be boring for one, and two, the public just would not respond well to it if you had every person that act the same way act like robots. So to have a great running agency, you have to have diversity. You've got to have. Um, I've got people in my department who are way smarter than I am. They're
Nice.
super. They're super smart.
Nice.
But I truly believe, as President Donald Trump has shown, who is a very smart man himself, he has hired and he has put people around him that are much, much smarter. That
That's
makes
very
you
true.
successful.
It sure does, doesn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, and that I guess that leads us to one of the last questions. You like broke a mold of politics in Moore County. I mean, what a kerfuffle
Right.
that has occurred because you just chose to run as a Republican, and there's never been a Republican primary. Am I right about that?
You are correct. This was the first time, and I knew going in that I would be on a hill by myself. I truly did. but I really truly believe I have never voted for someone that I didn't know where they stood, right? And I understand the concept that Moore County and a lot of other communities do by not having a primary because they want everyone to, be on the same playing field, and I get it. But what most citizens forget is when you're in an elected position or you're a first responder, period, you are bound by the Constitution that says you serve all people, period. That you serve all people. So if you take that out of it and we automatically know that you serve all people, then what do you stand for? What party do you stand up for? I don't believe boys belong in girls' locker rooms. I don't believe boys should be playing girls' sports. There's a lot of things that I wholeheartedly don't believe in. So why would I want to not run with the party that is against that anyway, right? So I think people now know that in Moore County that I'm not going to back down from a fight, especially when I know it's a just one. That I will stand on the hill and I will back every citizen, because that's where it starts at. If you can stand up by yourself, knowing that you're going to get ridiculed by this is how much it's going to cost us. We've never done this. This guy's already cost. I've seen all the remarks, and I welcome all the remarks because you know what? Everyone has their own opinion. It's called freedom of speech. I like it. I enjoy it. I've actually sat down and had good conversations with people that really just didn't like me because they didn't know me, and now we talk probably weekly now, if not daily. So, which is very unique. But the reason I stood on that hill was because you have to stand for something. I truly believe that. You've got to stand up for yourself.
Well, I was totally impressed. You're new into the political field, and
I am.
And I just saw him with a picture with Kane. So I mean,
yes,
it doesn't get any better than that.
I had the opportunity to meet. I was very apprehensive about going to that event just because I'm not a politician, right? And I do truly believe that local politics is what changes and molds the world. Mm-hmm. What we do locally trickles up instead of everything trickling down, right? So we have the biggest impact on, and we can make changes quicker than any other, whether Congress can't make things as quick as we can, change things as quick as the local person can. So I was like, well, I don't want it to change me or anything like that. But what I can tell you is it was a unique experience to be around well over 2,000 people that are like-minded, that are Christian, that have family values, and their number one goal is United States first. And the United States is made up of small counties and cities. And the citizens in Moore County and in Mont Eagle, your voice is very, very important. I've heard multiple times out on the campaign trail was, well, I don't vote because what good's it going to do? Unfortunately, that has been, just driven so long. It does take people to get out and shake the tree a little bit, and all the rotten apples come out, and hit the ground and let them do what they're going to do. So, but yeah, it was a very unique experience, and I really did enjoy it.
Oh gosh, that's so awesome. All right, last and most important question, William. Mm-hmm. Why should people vote for you?
That's a very good question. I've asked myself that multiple times, and I'm not going to say it's because I'm the most liked person, which I think I am. I am going to say if you vote for me, you're going to get leadership, good quality leadership. We're going to do what's right. We're going to treat every citizen fairly, good or bad. I mean, everyone's going to get treated the exact same way. I will hold my guys, the staff, to a higher standard than what they're currently being held to now, and that's not saying anything negative. And they know that when they lay down and go to sleep, they are going to be protected. So, and I know that currently right now that's not an issue. I don't expect that to ever be an issue, but it's very important that you trust the people, and two, I will have an open door policy. You know, every Wednesday, set a day aside that every Wednesday from 9 to 4, the citizens of Moore County can come in to that sheriff's department and sit down and have a conversation with me.
Nice.
Period. That's just the way it's going to be, because if you take time out of your day to drive across town and go vote in the booth, then you should at least have the opportunity to talk to the person that you voted in for.
Amen.
It's super simple.
Amen. All right. Where do they find out more information about you and your platforms? And then when's voting?
So I have William Raline for sheriff. That's my Facebook page. As far as anything else goes, I don't have any other social media. Yeah. Early voting starts July 17th, runs through August 1st. You have a little reprieve, and then August 6th is the general election. So everyone get out and vote. Your vote does matter. And I have ran on this slogan, you are what you don't change. You know, I mean, if you don't vote and it doesn't go your way, then you really don't have the luxury of complaining. You know, if you want the change